Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Founders Crate, sponsored by Gaper.io. Today, we have Brian Gilman. Brian is the VP of Product Marketing at Vonage. Brian, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Can you give us can you give us a brief background about yourself, what you've been doing prior to joining
Yeah,
Vonage?
yeah, sure. So I like to describe myself as a non-conventional marketer. I started off my career in high-tech finance, actually doing high-tech mergers and acquisitions, and then was in market research for a long time. I was an analyst, and then moved my way over to the supplier side when I was doing work at companies like Avaya, Dimension Data, and then got really into the product and solutions marketing area based on my background in technology. I spent most of my career helping build organizations not only around product marketing, but what I call solutions marketing, which is taking product and making it relevant to workflows and business processes, which brings inherent value to a business above and beyond just bits and bytes or speeds and feeds.
Interesting. So, uh, just trying to keep, so our podcasts are very sprint focused. So I'll try to make the conversation much more relevant towards the last 15 weeks, last 15 months and everything, marketing, managing marketing teams over Zoom, coming up with creativity over Zoom or Google or Microsoft Team. What's the experience been like? Can you share a bit more on that?
Yeah, it's been interesting because prior to working at Vonage, I spent about 10 years in the video conferencing space and had become very accustomed to working remotely. A lot of our teams were dispersed. My teams, when I worked at places like Polycom and at Video, were dispersed all over the globe. I had one team at Polycom where not a single person physically was located in an office. So for me, the concept of working from home and working remotely was very common to me. It's only recently that I started working at Vonage where the office was reintroduced back into my life. But for me, making the adjustment back into a virtual environment is something very common to me. And I think that for others who had been more office-based, it was something that was a bit more of a challenge, just in terms of making sure you have FaceTime, being able to have the collaborative tools to work not only independently but with your teams, and that the flow of information that you would get in a work environment was maintained in a virtualized setting.
Wow. So someone, who has an experience both from working from home prior to COVID and as well as, in the office space, can you share maybe examples or can you guide individuals that, okay, this is a transition that needs to happen. This is what it needs to, are the key takeaways?
Yeah, for me and for my teams, I think that the one of the primary things to keep teams engaged is having touch points, and they don't need to be long. I think we're all exhausted through the volumes of meetings that we all have, and I think that nobody can handle 2-hour video calls all day long, which is what we're all dealing with. But for me, it's making sure that my teams have touch points with me, and that at least once a week I have something as simple as a 15-minute phone call with all the individuals on my team, even at a skip level, to make sure that one, they feel like they're being heard within the organization, being heard within the team, but two, as a sanity check on a personal level to see how are they doing, how are they coping with the work from home environment, do they feel like there's any gaps that's keeping them from doing their job that they may have done differently 15 months ago. And trying to keep it light, for me and the teams that I manage, we have a great amount of collaboration where teams are willing to step up and help other people who are getting stuck in volumes of work. We're in the middle of report season with some of the analyst firms, so there's a lot of work being focused on a few people. So the ability to spread some of that work to other people has been really important to our business, but also to help just the sanity of the teams. And I think the most important thing these days is making sure that people are taking their time off,
Yeah.
at least taking their personal time. I think that in a world where everything is virtual, while it seems like there's more freedoms, I think having your desk, your phone always in front of you, the leash actually becomes shorter. So telling people to disconnect, take some time off, have time with their family is really important just to keep their batteries charged.
Got it. So, Zoom fatigue, mental health, these are the topics that started coming up around September last year, October last year, when everyone was kind of like feeling burnt, right? So you've mentioned about, taking a 15-minute call on a weekly basis with everyone to just keep a sanity check. Is there any other activities you started doing that was kind of like this, or that was the only one that you just focused on?
No, I mean, early on in the pandemic, we would have virtual happy hours on Friday. Just at
Okay.
4 o'clock, everyone dial into a call. It was completely. We opened it up broader than my team. It was people who we work with on a regular basis, my team, and so we had people from the product side of the house. We had people from our comms team, and there was no requirement to come, but it was something that everyone began to start to look forward to. And the calls grew more and more, and there was no work topics. We ended up talking about movies, sports, whatever it was. But for us, it was a common place for us to have some of that water cooler talk that I think is definitively missing in a virtual environment, and something that I've learned to appreciate. Being in more of an office environment at Vonage, we're now clearly remote, but you miss some of those more just throwaway conversations at the lunch table or walking down the hallway. So for us, having those Friday virtual meetups was really important for us, just to talk shop without talking shop. It was for us just to have a conversation with our peers and to get to know a little bit more about them without having to worry about the confines of work or whatever.
So, with the vaccine rollout happening at a record pace, and hopefully, knock on wood, by around July 4th, we'll have a lot of things going back to normal. So, what are your key takeaways? Would you want to stick with work from home? Would you want to go back to office completely, or how about would you want to go about it?
I've never been a go back to office completely type of guy. For me, from personally having spent so much time in the video world, I find that the ability to attract talent globally is incredibly important these days. In a world where everyone's competing for the same talent, to say that you have to be tied or near to an office is a limiting factor for me as an employer of people. So for me, it's if you want to be in the office, great. I know people that work better in the office. There are days when I have a number of children at home. The house gets loud. I will probably want to go to the office at times, but having teams that are as dispersed as my teams are, I don't have a requirement for them to go to the office. I feel that our company as a whole is going to be much more hybrid than we were in the past, where offices will be more around hoteling spaces. They'll have conference rooms for team meetings, but you'll have drop-in cubes. You'll have hoteling space, much more open air, less desk environments, and I think that is going to become more of the norm as people will come into the office on an as needed basis, not on an as required basis.
So last question, what personal habits you've changed in your daily routine that helps you to be much more productive?
For me personally, every day, no matter what, I
Yeah.
take some time to go outside. It could be 5 degrees outside, it could be 80 degrees outside, just to get some fresh air. I find myself, I will sit at my desk from 7 in the morning until whenever at night. And if I don't get out and get some air, I find for me exhaustion sets in. There are times in the day where I work better when I have other inputs. I'll listen to podcasts. I will just try to keep my mind fresh, because I find that when I get sunk into just work, I start to get very stale at the end of the day. So for me, it's making sure that I get outside once or twice, a couple times a day, even if I have to unplug for 10 minutes and go play some soccer in the backyard with my kids, just to one, it's important for them to see their dad who's in the house and they
Yeah.
never see, but
Yeah.
also for my own mental health. You know, when you're in the office, you have the ability to go get lunch, you have the ability to walk down the hall to have a meeting, but when you're at your desk all day long, it's a much different environment. So for me, it's taking those little snippets of time just to recharge is really important.
Got it. Brian, thank you so much for being on the show. Take care of yourself. Stay safe. We could have this conversation for another 20 minutes or so at least, but from a marketing perspective, we need to keep them short and precise. Yeah. Thank you so
Totally
much.
understood. I appreciate the time. Thank you for having me.
And